it's gonna happen. I thought it was gonna happen next Monday.
We have so much machinery
Yeah.
going around to get to that, and it's off and on.
It is, because, you know, we're all trying to save face.
We have two roads, so there is no good, bad, indifferent.
When I had a discussion,
In one good location.
you don't want to speak, can't speak
With an area of development and just build more
You
houses.
guys dropped the ball.
That's my point.
He's gonna be truthful, he's gonna make it.
Age restricted.
I suggested that you just leave it alone. Come Monday.
No, that's not affordable.
Because it's age restricted. Because that's what they asked me, and I said, it's age restricted.
Big sit down.
There might be some, I text Jay that.
Well, it's funny, I said, I'm not sure.
Kate looked at me, she said, "What are you messing with?" He said, "I don't
Right.
think you messing with me."
That doesn't impact schools and other people's schools.
You know me, I don't have to sit in here, I would love to
And it really is a shame, we have work to
put
do.
something like, yeah, but Tom's right, too many.
Very true.
One, goals of community, not 80 years old. 55 and older. Absolutely. The money.
He's doing a good job of it, making it about him.
But it's amazing how quiet everybody else is. I can't believe
Good evening. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Maganone, if you'd lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right.
Everywhere. Oh, Dennis is in there.
Madam Secretary, has this meeting been properly advertised to comply with the Open Public Meeting Act's law?
Yes, it has.
Well, thank you very much. In that case, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Bell is absent.
Yes.
Mr. Hudkevich.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Lembo.
Yeah.
Mr. McEnroe.
Present.
Ms. O'Leary.
Yes.
Mr.
here.
Velosin.
Here.
Mr. Ty.
Yes.
Ms. Mantilla.
Yes.
Mr. Rogoff.
Here.
Mr. Cornell.
Here. So we're going right
Mr.
into this.
Leoncavella.
Here.
And
You have a revised, agenda that shows what the
Right.
resolution-
All right. Memorialization of resolutions. Resolution adopting the amendment of the housing element fair share of the master plan of the Borough of Saraville, granted August 7th, 2017, August 2, rather. You want to do them both together, or you want to do them separately? All right. So I need a motion to accept that and send it to the board, send it to the mayor and council.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to memorialize that and to adapt a resolution on 366-17.
I have a second?
Second.
Hold on, just a moment. Let's back up. The first resolution does not refer to the ordinances.
No, it's
First
the other
res-
two.
The first
Right.
resolution relates to amendments to the master plan, housing element, and fair share plan. That is implementing the ordinance. The ordinance implements those things. Okay?
So we have to take, out of your motion, we have to take out the last part, Ken.
Okay, fine, Mr. Chairman.
Is that a second, is all right?
Yes, yes it is.
Right. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Hudkevich.
I wasn't here for that.
Mr. Davis wasn't here either. Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Ms. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Lembo.
No.
Mr. McEnroe.
No.
Ms. O'Leary.
Yes.
Mr. Velosin.
Yes.
Mr. Ty.
Yes.
Ms. Mantola wasn't here. Five.
So,
Yeah.
so we'll send that to the mayor and council. Now, we need to adopt the resolution of the planning board report to the mayor and council on proposed amendments to the Borough Land Development Ordinance to implement the proposed modifications to the housing element and the fair share plan of the master plan of the Borough of Saraville pursuant to NJSA 40-55D-26, granted August 2nd, 2017. I need a motion for
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have any questions? If not, I'll have a roll call.
We're doing one vote, both ordinances are in there, they're separated. So it's all in one resolution, you don't need two votes.
Okay.
I just included both of them in the resolution. Unless you find a necessity to do so. There were different votes on the different resolutions. So if you found the necessity to do so, I would just separate them out. So it's however the board wishes to proceed on that.
Doesn't matter to me as long as we're statutorily correct either way. I mean, if you have the resolution written where 366-17 we're voting on and 363-17, that's fine.
It's 66 and 63, that's correct.
66 and 63.
They're
Okay.
both in there.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Under the question, we answered that it's one resolution for the two ordinances that we're going to, if they want to pass them separately, that's theirs. We're sending them up to them with our,
Right, if I had to, I could draft a separate one.
well, we have it tonight, so.
Yep.
We'll vote on that, if that statutorily is okay. All right, so we're gonna vote on the resolution. We'll have a roll call on that?
Okay. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Limbo?
No.
Mr. McEnon?
No.
Ms. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Voloshin?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Both resolutions are adopted 5-2.
Thank you very much for a job well done. I need somebody to make a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting,
Make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept the minutes.
of the August 2nd meeting. Do I have a second?
May as well be yes.
Yes? Any questions under the minutes? Everybody had a chance to look at them? If there are no questions, I'll take a roll call of, yeah. I'll just take all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Minutes accepted. Any communication?
None.
None. Site plan, communication, none. We have no sub-plans or site plans for us tonight. At this time, I'd like to say that we're going to skip the September 6th meeting, and on September 20th, we will go over the Ernstone Road Realty Association, that's the old Briarwood site, and Pure is gonna come in for their yearly evaluation on how they're making out. And I think what we'll do is we'll reach out to the police and see how they made out with the police, though. Okay, we need a motion to cancel the meeting in September.
Make that motion to cancel the September 6th meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second on that?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we know where we're at with that. Old business, new business, administrative matters, do we have any?
Yes, I got, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments, if I can.
Without a doubt. I would never stop you, Michael.
Okay. I've been on the board now for 13 years. And I would say that the last meeting that we had, our last meeting, I was just embarrassed about. And what I'm talking about is, I don't like the way we treated members of the public that came here. We put together a public meeting, we invited people to come, and I don't think we were very professional at times with them. People buy homes, and for a lot of us, that's the biggest investment we will make in our lives. And what's going on now, with the biggest issue that's facing this town, I don't think we could blame people for being upset, being confused, and in some cases being angry for the development that's going basically unchecked and what's happening now with this COA resolution that's finally been adopted. I think when it comes to these types of things, if somebody wants to get up, I know on a Board of Ed meeting, if somebody wants to come up 5 times, they can come up 5 times. If they want to ask a question 5 different ways, I will answer it 5 different ways. I think they have a right to do that. I think they're concerned. And I think at times, we need to be professional. We need to be sensitive. We need to be compassionate. And I think most importantly, we need to be patient. And I think at times we failed last meeting, being impatient with people that just had questions. And they're not as astute about the things that the planning board does. Because it is sometimes esoteric. It's difficult. It's confusing, like just tonight with all these ordinances. So I think when people come to a public meeting, we provide a service, and they're our customers. And if they have questions and they have concerns, we should be able to answer those professionally. And my armor doesn't kink, so if somebody wants to come up here and accuse me of things, I will talk to them and explain my case. We're volunteers, and I know that was said a couple of times. Just because we're volunteers doesn't mean we can't be professional or to treat people, I think, the way they need to be treated. And that bothered me at the meeting last night. It bothered me up until tonight, and now I feel better that I'll be able to make my comments. And I don't know if anybody else that was at the meeting last night feels the same, but I think we failed on that point, so that's my comments.
Michael, I hear where you're coming from, but I'll tell you what, some of the people didn't want to hear our answers anyway, and I tried to limit it so that people that weren't so boisterous would be able to have a chance before everybody else. There were several people that got more than 4 or 5 bites at the apple.
Okay, but somebody can ask a question and then get an answer, sit down, and then someone else down the road asks us a question, and that sparks another question in somebody's mind.
Well, that
They
happened
wanna
all
come
night,
back up to the
Michael.
microphone.
And
We announced we're gonna be here till 11 o'clock, so till 11 o'clock, we should be able to listen to people. And I know I made that comment to you during the intermission, that we need to chill out and relax.
Oh, I understand that, Michael, but I mean, in the heat of the moment, and the meeting, I think I ran it as professionally as possible, and the people that wanted to hear our side of it, listened to it. The people that didn't, we could have sat here until 11 o'clock tonight.
But I just wanna always keep in perspective why people are upset.
Well,
Because they
I
see what's
understand why
happening
they're
here,
upset,
and
because it's in
I'm
their
upset more than them,
backyard.
because I sit up here and I see this, and I have a vote, and my vote means nothing, because the writing's on the wall. We got a couple of sites where it's just ludicrous to develop there. We got Washington Road and we got Main Street, and every time developers come up here, they give us a traffic study, but they always do it off-season, not during the school year. And they come up here and say, oh, there's no problem in traffic. But then I sit there and watch the traffic light cycle 3 times. I don't need to be a traffic engineer to tell you we got a problem with traffic. We just added how many square feet to ShopRite? We're putting a child care center there. We're building a bank, which is gonna generate more trips than a Pizza Hut. We've got people that park along North Ernst Road to take the bus to go to work in Manhattan or wherever else they go. And now we're gonna build another housing development over there. And we're a planning board, and we can't do anything about it. I mean, who's that make sense to?
Yeah, but some of the planning laws don't make sense.
Yeah, but some of those things we lost because of procedural type of stuff.
Oh.
And that's the bottom line, So if people are upset, I don't blame them for being upset, and I think we need to understand that and be compassionate, be professional, and be patient with people. That's just my only point. I don't know. If anybody else wants to chime in, go right ahead. That was my takeaway from the 4 hours I sat up here. I think we failed in that point.
I think maybe next time we can, carry it over to the next meeting, because you did make the announcement, and we were here till 11 o'clock. And I think he tried to get it so more people could talk.
I'm done.
I mean, you're right in that, right, people don't understand. I don't understand. I always feel, I was just speaking with the ladies out there before, telling them I feel like I should be on the other side. But then when you get up this side, and I pay attention to the engineer and the planner, and you say the same things they say, and then we find out, well, by law, you can't say no because of this. You can't tell an owner you can't build. It's zoned for that. So I understand what you mean. They are
And that's the
confused
frustrating
with the
part,
But
with the
Tommy,
constraints that we're in, Michael.
We need to understand, when we explain things to people, their level of knowledge of what's going on. When
I thought
talk about Capital
I
One,
thought we did a pretty good job at
Perfect
that,
example,
but
the
there's.
Capital One site that's supposed to be prime, and now we're changing it so we could build houses up there. We have to explain that the planning board would never took the initiative to change that zoning if we didn't have a fair housing allotment.
You're absolutely right.
Kaplan jumped at it and said, look, you want to build affordable housing in Sayville? I got a piece of land, I'll build some affordable housing. Yeah, he doesn't tell you he's going to build a couple hundred other houses that aren't affordable. So we would have never taken that, but we didn't do a good job explaining that to people, why that's being changed. And I sit here frustrated, biting my tongue, saying I could explain this a lot better to people, at that level. It's just like when people come to school board meetings, they don't understand things. We need to explain it to them. and explain it to them in a way they understand.
Again, Michael, I'm
Knowing
gonna
your
tell you,
audience, you know?
sitting here at this meeting, half of the people got it, half of the people, no matter what you said, weren't gonna get it.
And I think when you look in hindsight, you can always think, I wish I said that, or maybe we should have did this, but again, it's in hindsight.
It's true, and what I tried to do is give everybody a fair shot. I mean, there were some people up here cursing at us, you know, and we don't deserve that.
My armor doesn't kink. I understand their frustration.
You know, I mean, I think this board has acted for the best in town without bringing politics into it.
Well,
So,
I
I mean,
agree.
you know, and I
I'm
mean,
not saying we did.
but the other thing is when you're constrained by state statute, you know, I live on a street that every day, I fail out. I live right across from the Amboy Madison Bank up on Harrison Street. It's a little one-way street. I wait sometimes 10 minutes to get out of that street. I know it's only gonna get worse. You know, on Washington Road, at least they're putting in the lights so that there's a little in Main Street, there's a little staggering. But, you know, we're almost to the point where we're built out.
But Mr. Sachs had mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, that the settlement agreement can be modified.
He said,
He made those comments. So
Well,
why
he
are we
did.
taking that approach? Why do we acquiesce so quickly?
Well,
You know, and
because,
say, oh, you know, the court
because
said
we
that.
didn't have input from the redevelopment area, we didn't have input from Sarah, who now wants to get involved. They're trying to look to get, affordable housing for veterans, which gives us a better thing. But besides looking at it, you gotta find somebody to build it.
How many times did I sit up here and saying, we need to work with Sarah, we need to work with other agencies, but nobody's ever taken initiative to do that. Go over there and say, guys, look, we gotta meet, we gotta get together, we gotta do what's best for the town. We can't have these little entities, these little boards doing their own little agenda, because it doesn't work for the folks. Everybody needs to get together and say, look, let's work this, team sayable concept. We're all in this together, and I always thought that we're in this together is a better concept than you're on your own. And, you know, and this is the pinnacle of it. This is the
That's why
test-
we're here, Michael, because people aren't working together.
This is the
You
biggest
know, I
issue
mean,
that
you
faces
know,
the
this is
town.
one board, and I'm not here to solve the council problems or the political problems in town. What I'm trying to do is run a planning board that's the best for everybody under the state statutes, so that the guys like Kaplan and those people don't take advantage of us any more than they do. Because they're so well-versed in the law. You saw it. When he has an opportunity, what did he do down in Town Lake? Right? That was supposed to be old age. Soon as the legislature let him, boom, who was the first one to change it? Michael. And we had
And
nothing.
who on this board made the biggest stink about that?
Yeah, but,
Exactly. Okay.
but who could, where did it get us, Mike?
Well, it doesn't mean we can't fight. You know, I believe in fighting. You know, I've been fighting all my life. You know, I like, you know.
You know, I like fighting too, and I like winning, but I'll tell you what, when your
The
hands
settlement
are
agreement
tied-
can be modified, so I think we should look at that. How could it be modified? Get Larry Sachs back up here. Say, hey, Larry, how can we modify this? This is the biggest issue. We fail in this issue, we're done.
it's not, if I can,
Sure.
keep in mind, I wasn't here a year ago.
What does it mean by
But in
modified? I mean,
reading-
the number's the number.
Well, that's what I want to make a point about. The settlement agreement that was entered into, and by the way, it's not just a settlement agreement.
Use the microphone so it comes recorded.
Yeah. Just, sorry. The settlement agreement was negotiated between several parties. Part of the impact of the settlement agreement was not just what happened to the Kaplan sites, but you have a affordable housing obligation over the next decade or two of 785 units. They're going to be going somewhere. And so, not only just Larry, you know, the borough, and Kaplan, but you had the Elizabeth McKenzie, who was the special master, had to sign off on that. So, her job, she's assigned by the court
That's it.
to do all of these municipalities, and including the Fair Housing Center. So you have the Fair Housing Center, you have Kaplan, you have the Borough of Sayreville, and you have Elizabeth McKenzie, who's the master that oversees all this stuff. So there were 4 or 5 parties to that agreement. And it had to satisfy the Fair Housing Center, because they're a litigant, and it had to satisfy the special master. Now, if this all goes awry, and we discuss this, you know, you're looking at what the Fair Housing Center originally wanted was over 1,300 units. And so a compromise was reached. Now, to get back to whether or not that settlement agreement can be changed, I have no idea. And I don't know what the basis would be. Less units, and for what reason? And where? That's just an agreement that says, here are the number of units you need to have, and two of them are gonna be at Kaplan 1 and Kaplan 2, or Camelot, whatever they are, to satisfy a portion of your affordable housing obligation.
But what if we don't think those are good sites? We would have never developed those sites on our own. Why are they now good sites because we have to build affordable housing? And I think that's what everybody's point is. It's not a good location to put homes.
Is there a good location?
That's not a good one. That's all I can tell you. What about Route 35 corridor? A lot of empty space down there. We had an application here to build apartments down there across where the old Deco Lounge site used to be, across from Club New York.
Plus,
Make that an affordable housing area.
Well, you have to change zoning to do that.
Well, we like to change zoning, obviously. Let's change that zoning.
Well,
That's part,
Wouldn't the builder have to be the
Did-
one that wants to build?
that has to be done through redevelopment and making that a redevelopment, which we did. So that whole process has to come back to us. Then we have to make a recommendation to the council to change that, and the council makes that change.
But we only have a window of 10 years to start doing these things.
Well,
You know, that's the problem.
That's the, if I could interrupt, that's what Betsy McKenzie talks about. Everything has to be shovel-ready in 2 years. That's where we're
Heard that term
going. And if it's not, it may not be, if we're not ready, that may sink, and then we have to find another site. Because the number is not gonna change, if you don't develop a site, it's not gonna go away. The other problem is, that you mentioned, we talked about using the Route 35 corridor, and doing it under redevelopment. I found out, that we have no redeveloper. The borough doesn't own any of the property down there to,
redevelop.
let it go into redevelopment. So,
Don't we have a Sayville Economic Redevelopment Agency?
yes, but
Okay.
that site is not being worked on right now.
Well, it should be.
I know,
That's why we all
but-
need to get together, don't you understand? We're playing
But-
separate instruments. We need to get the band together here.
I agree, but we tried, and it wasn't being worked on, so.
Well, let me ask you this. Suppose we didn't approve the sites or agree to the people that want to build, and we don't build. What's the penalty? I mean, because I got the impression that it was punitive, that they would increase the number of units that we would have to build if we didn't build in the time frame allotted. And so we have to go with builders who have land that they're willing to redevelop and spend the money. If we can't force someone to build if they don't want to. So aren't we somewhat hamstrung here in that we have to go with the people that own the land and are willing to do the development?
Is that correct?
Well, we're certainly hamstrung in the Kaplan properties. He filed as an intervener. Court gave him the right to build, so that is out of our hands.
He's just done.
Something is gonna have.
That's done.
He has the authority to build on that. Whether we can lessen the units, hopefully, the amount of overall units, that would be great, but
I mean, to me, the whole regulation should be changed. It's a shame that we can't refuse building because of traffic problems, school problems, lack of
I agree.
infrastructure, but we
Exactly.
Why
can't.
have a planning board then, if we can't do those things?
Because it's not our jurisdiction to do that.
I agree. At what point does a town burst? Like, in other words, at what point can you say we don't have enough roads?
They don't care.
I
Ask
mean,
New York.
Legally?
But in this case, the court has in effect changed our zoning for us. Doesn't matter whether we vote to change it or not, the court's gonna change it for us.
Councilman, that's-
Two roads in and out of the whole town.
Councilman, that's exactly my point. We would have
Yeah.
never changed the zoning.
Absolutely
Kaplan saw the
not.
writing on the wall, he ran there and said,
Nobody
hey, I
here,
got property in
council,
Sayville.
nobody wants to build that.
Make them rezone it so I can build homes there.
But
Now,
wait
hey,
a minute,
I'll
wait a
kick in
minute,
affordable housing.
wait a minute. Kaplan used the law in his favor. There was
Absolutely.
legislation that he could be an intervener. Once he did that,
I
the
understand.
town okayed it, done deal.
I'm not saying Kaplan did anything illegal, but people don't understand what happened here. Okay, people don't, and that's where we didn't do a good job explaining it last time. We would have never rezoned those properties. Kaplan would have never built homes on there.
Right.
Except he became an intervener. And he went to the court and said, hey, make the town change that zoning to residential, and I'll kick in 20% affordable housing. That's exactly what happened. That's
More
exactly
move
what
on his
happened.
part.
you know, and we're stuck with it, you know, and you try.
It was no one's idea but Kaplan's to build on
Does
Ernston Road.
anybody have any idea
Nobody
what's gonna
wants to
happen
see
at
that
Ernst- Well,
built.
Councilman, we created Ernston Road, we created that extension, North Ernston Road, to alleviate traffic. Now we're gonna build a couple hundred houses over there. Who says that? Who does
Couldn't
that make
agree
sense?
more that it makes no
Sometimes I
sense.
think I parachute into this world on my own, because where does this happen? And then we sit here like this, and then we get mad at the people that are complaining.
Well, we
This is
fight
what
to
happens when
change
when the
laws.
courts get involved in making these decisions for the municipalities.
Politicians that fail.
Well,
That's what
exactly where I
happened.
was gonna go.
They failed to legislate, and the court put their hands up and said, they don't want to legislate it, then we'll do it. Now we have a legislative judicial system. That's what we have.
But we
And-
can't-
and would it be up to the politicians to change the laws to be able to make the builders pitch in for schools? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
when we were in
I'll
Europe,
tell you
said
what,
other
we went
cities
through
do
that.
I would love to
that.
see that happen in this state, but I'll tell you what, we as planning boards, if we all pitched in $1 million, it wouldn't be enough. Their lobbying down in Trenton is unbelievable.
But
They
why
have the
is it done in
realtors,
other
they have the
states?
architects, they have the engineers, the builders. They all have associations.
A different will for change. In this state, we are very interested in the financial aspect only. Everybody's in it for the money. Other states might have a little bit nicer people, might be a little more relaxed, but you really, the message to the people, and we can't really sit here and tell them what to do, is go vote differently. You don't like what the politicians are doing, vote somebody else in. It's not our place to say that, though. This is the problem we have.
And needless to say, when Camelot was changed from age-restricted to market value, that was supported and voted on by our local politicians.
Without a doubt. And it was passed unanimously by the Assembly and the Senate.
Fact.
And the
That had
day
nothing to
after
do
it
with
was,
us.
the day after it was passed,
not the
he
planning
came
board's
here
fault.
with his lawyers, and the age restriction went away.
But wasn't that done by Corzine when he left office?
Yeah.
Then why
That
should
was
the
Corzine's
planning
parting
board
shot.
vote on it and they come before us and they make a beautiful pledge and we all say, yes, age restricted would be great, we need more, and then they change it anyway.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to come back to us.
Well, that's the problem with the party system, that you have people
the
coming in and
nature
out
of
of
the
office,
game.
different people, different ideas, and they keep doing and undoing.
Well, I'm gonna be
Decisions.
interested in seeing the traffic study for this Capital One and Capital Two development. I know we can't turn down an application for
gonna
traffic,
say,
but then
right.
why do we have to sit and listen to the traffic study? See, it's things like that that just
I
drive
agree,
me
right,
crazy.
Well,
right.
because sometimes.
Don't disagree.
They just ask for them.
But Council, I
If
never.
we all vote no, let's just say we all vote no,
On what?
on something like that, but,
We go to
but
court.
we're not allowed to vote no based on traffic.
Then you're gonna take it to
And so then
court.
we go to court.
Yeah, then you
they
lose
win, and
before I
then
get back to my
It just
office.
costs the town more money.
You lose before I get back to my office.
Right.
You what?
You will lose that case before I get back to my office.
And why can't you, and I'm being
So
facetious,
it's
I
a
know you know
vicious
the
circle,
answer.
you're forced to,
You.
Well, no. Listen.
One second.
Without being-
Let me just say, when they do a traffic study, and they did a traffic study when they did the Cerebral Homes, and they did a traffic study when they did the, when they were gonna do Mako's property, and those traffic studies said when certain things kicked in, that they had to build lights. Okay, that's what you can get out of a traffic study. You can get improvements, and you can even get them to pay for some of the improvements, but then you have to go through the county to do that, okay? So, the traffic studies aren't for nil, but you cannot deny account of that, but you can ask for stipulations because it's going, what they call, that corner is gonna fail, more than not.
But Tommy,
Like where my street fails and I can't get out of it.
Tommy, you know that a traffic study is done for the developer who's paying the traffic engineer to do the study to come out with a specific result.
Well, and I'd have to refer to council, can we pick the times the traffic study's done?
You can do your own study.
yeah, we could.
You can hire an outside traffic
That's more money.
engineer.
Whoever pays for it, it comes out in their favor, let's face it. Lawyers do it all the time.
I think that probably
Plaintiff
that
defendant,
might
everybody
probably come
has
out
an
of
expert.
escrow.
And it's a true statement that we cannot deny an application for the impact of traffic, and not deny application for the impact on schools.
Off-site
Oh,
traffic.
because that's in that book right there.
Off-site traffic.
Right, it's because it's in that book.
Well, it's the Dunkin' Donuts case specifically.
Uh,
The
I got-
case,
Excuse me,
yeah,
it saves me the legalese, it's because it's statute.
Yes.
case law.
Case law, why? Because developers are the biggest special interest group down in traffic. They go
I
down and they
wouldn't
throw
call
their
them the
money
biggest,
around.
but they're one of.
And who votes on
Absolutely
this, it's all
Well,
political.
let me give you a 2-second
Deborah said it
explanation.
best, you gotta
I'll
vote
give you a
them out.
2-second explanation as to why traffic, off-site traffic, you cannot deny a conforming site plan because of off-site traffic. And the reason is, it's zoned that way. If you zone it residential and you put in a home, You put in 5 homes, it meets all the bulk requirements. You cannot deny that application because there's too much traffic. And the reason is, the governing body has already determined that that site can accommodate the homes and the traffic, whether it's industrial, whether it's commercial. So you can't,
Makes sense.
that's the reason.
I understand.
Once you put it in the master plan, you're saying that your master plan will cover the load.
You can't attack the traffic once you think it's supposed to be residential. Residential's residential.
And
You can't start arguing, there's too many homes
Who's
over
owned?
there.
Why doesn't density apply, though?
Density applies. If it exceeds your permitted density, you gotta get a use variance.
By ordinance, or an ordinance.
So,
Ordinance.
is that something that we could look at changing, allowable density?
We have an ordinance on density.
But
yeah,
maybe it's not
so
sufficient,
you
maybe
have-
it's allowing more than we want.
Your
We
density-
changed the density in 1989, when we took all the townhouses out, and we got sued for that. It took us almost 12 years to get out of that litigation.
I'm sorry, that's good information, that's before my
Okay.
time, I didn't
All
realize.
right, so,
Okay.
and that was because we did it. And when we did it, we did the whole town. You know, we did the Mako property, we did Town Lake, that's why that's all houses and part and parcel. We took all, Patriots Path, they were all scheduled to be condos, okay? We limited what he could do over in Kaplan, what he could do over with the 900, and that was done 20 years ago.
Well,
So, I mean, those constraints are what you're talking about. To do it again, we would have to change the master plan and come up with a reason to take the density out of it, and then we'd have to stand behind it, and we would have to do all the properties in the town, not just the one.
that's how you
Because
got in trouble in the last case that you lost.
kind of,
The reason you lost that case, besides the procedural deficiencies, was you took a lot over there and decided you wanted to change its zone. You cannot do that. That's illegal. It's called spot zoning. You have to do an encompassing reexamination of your master plan. You can't take Mr. Lembo's house and say, I don't like that being residential, I now want it to be industrial. That doesn't work. It has to be a municipal-wide review. There has to be planning reasons why you want to change the zone. You know, there, planning reasons, really good planning reasons.
Traffic.
You know, the
Yeah, our
traffic
ro-
is
our
terrible.
roads can't
And that's
support
when
it.
you can really, that's when you get to talk about traffic. When you want to do your master plan, and you do a review, you say, you know, the traffic is ungodly here, we need to consider putting something in, we need to make it open space, we need to consider putting something else here, blah, 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 blah.
and that's what we did the last time.
And that's
I
what we
mean,
did, and that's why we have Kaplan One property zone as prime, right? Because that's what we want.
Can you imagine if we didn't take the zoning and change that with all the condos in town, what the traffic would be? The density would be 10 times worse.
I'm for
Oh,
reevaluating the master plan.
So-
When was the last time we did that, John?
2 years ago?
2013.
2001?
13,
And we have a full one coming up,
Yeah, every
what,
7 years.
2018?
Every 10,
every 10 years.
used to be 7.
Should be 7.
You have to do it every 10.
We could do it earlier.
You could do it earlier.
That's my vote.
I'm in.
Yeah. Not happy with what we're being
That's a
forced
huge
down.
That's a huge undertaking. It's not-
Listen, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
It is.
All right.
This is a
Michael, you have
defining
anything?
moment.
I don't want to be rude, Michael. I don't want to cut you short. Do you have anything else you want to, you would like to partake on us?
I'm sure something will come up during the rest of our conversation.
All right. Well, feel free to jump in.
I want to say thank you, because this is how you learn.
Public portion, make a motion to open up to the public portion.
Make a motion, open public portion.
Get a second?
Second,
All in favor? Anybody in public like to make a statement? Come on up. Give me your name and your address. Hey, John.
He needs a
mic.
microphone.
Microphone.
We'll give
All right,
you
we'll
one,
get you one.
Charlie.
For you.
You're like me, you don't need one.
I understand you people are going to change the zoning down on the end of Oak Street to allow these trucks to be parked there?
We don't change the zoning, that's not us.
Pardon?
We don't change zoning.
Well, I understand you people here are the ones that are gonna allow these people to do what they're doing. Right now, from what I understand, the man has no authority whatsoever, and he's got 100 trucks in there. All right? Now, one thing I'd like to bring up to you people is anybody doing their homework. Across the street from that property it's zoned for a school. Okay? Right now, you got dry bulk trucks in there. Let's put some tankers in there. Let's put some tankers in there. Let's have a spill. Okay? We get a toxic spill going down there. The water table is so high. Where do you think that water's gonna go? Where the school is gonna go? We're gonna contaminate the property across the street. So do you think it's the right thing to do?
Well, first of all, there is no application to do anything on that property.
There isn't.
There
Not
isn't.
From what I understand.
Well, it's not in front of our board. And if they're gonna change the zoning, then it would go to the zoning board. Okay, so that would be the, avenue that you would have to go speak.
All right.
We would have to have a plan, and they would have to do an engineering study. Like I told you the last time you were here, once they come up with a plan, then all of that other stuff has to come into play, okay? Right now, it's not a permitted use. He's probably doing it illegal, and from what I'm being told, that the zoning board's, the zoning officer has been down there, and I can't tell you if he's been fined yet or if he hasn't. I would say that you should go to the borough administrator and ask, you know, the clerk would know if he got fined and if he paid his fines. And if he's not, then I would go to the zoning board and ask him why he's not in compliance and why he hasn't paid the fines. Okay?
Well, just food for thought, because if you get tankers in there, have a spill or two, the water table's high, believe me, it's going over to the adjoining properties, and you have plans to put a school in there. It's not a good situation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir?
Thomas Bashada, 17 Green Hill Avenue, Parlin, New Jersey. Just to back up what the gentleman said, I rode by that area this morning. There's 2 houses next to the old playpen. There were 4 dump trucks, and I forgot how many trucks, 18-wheelers that were parked there. If houses are there, it should be a zoning infraction, which I know you're not in charge of.
No.
Second thing is that, I've got 3 parts. Second thing is, in a procedure tonight, usually what I'm familiar with, the council does it, the Board of Education does it, if there's a, such as the memorialization that you did, usually what happens is, that particular will say 36617, you'll open it to the public for comment before you vote on it.
Yeah.
Please, you know, I'll tell you the truth. As an attorney representing this town, I have a problem with your mannerisms up here. I'll be very honest with you. Okay,
Your opinion.
that's my opinion. I'll tell you what, that video says it also.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm sorry to feel that
But
way.
again, I thought that you would open it up for a public opinion before you memorialized and voted on each one of these resolutions tonight.
We opened it up to public comment last week. when we-
Okay, so in other words, your procedure, even though you opened it up last week, you don't open it up again for
Well,
the
because the resolution was written and we voted on it, so we're just, now that we have the resolution in front of us, Mr. Pashado, is all we're doing is saying, this is what we voted on, here it is. The mayor and council are gonna be able to hash all of that out all over again. They're either gonna, adopt those 2 ordinances, or they're not, and then we're gonna find out what happens if they don't. But if they do, you know exactly what's gonna happen, because the ordinance is everything we spoke about at the last meeting. Okay?
Okay, third thing is, what Mr. McEnon was saying, see, one of the issues I think that bothers the town people right now is that I found out about this in the middle of May, what was going on with the rezoning and how everything was going to go. And I think what happened here is that people were left in the dark, and they're still left in the dark. A lot of people are with,
Well, I
you know,
have to
changing
agree.
prime to residential, et cetera. You know, they don't know really what the areas are. That upsets them a lot, believe me, because, again, like I mentioned at the last meeting, I don't think we, as a town person, and I think the people that live in this town, I don't think they want any more housing, although I know what you have, the statues in front of you. But again, you know, there's challenges that can be made. And the other thing that I mentioned is the last time I was at this meeting was, again, what he was talking about and what I'm talking about tonight was called transparency. Nobody knew about it. That's why everybody's angry about it.
And I don't know if it's our fault, because we advertise what we're doing all the time. You know, nobody comes to our meetings until there's a problem. But it's not like we have a liaison to the council. We had one before him. Now, I'm being told that the council, the guy before Pat wasn't a very good liaison between it, but that's not my problem. You know, I talk to the mayor occasionally about things, probably more about personal things than planning board issues, you know. So it's the borough's council that should be alerting people, because that's where the people go to the meetings. And then once there was an uproar, then everybody started. The biggest complaint that I had is that when everybody got in an uproar, nobody came here and asked us, the guys that did the study, what we did for the last 2 years. Nobody came back and asked us what our input was, how we got to this, why we had to. And I think Mr. Maganon is right. Maybe we didn't present it correctly enough, that Kaplan took advantage of a loophole again, you know? If that's the case, that's my fault. But I'm new at this. It's not a job I sought to take. I like being in the second chair like Mr. Kelly. It was easy to say yes or no, but the board has put me here, and I'm going to try to do the best that I can. But it's hard when you're a reasonable person, and you can decipher between what we can do and what we can't. There's some people that come here and just want us to do what they want to do, and if we did that, they'd be screaming when they saw the legal bills. They didn't like the legal bills to keep us out of Mako, to keep Mako from putting a little Raritan Center down there, or to keep him from developing that property correctly for the last 18 years. You know, it was over $1 million. To me, it was money well spent because, you know, he didn't shove something down our throat. Oh, but that's
I agree
just
with
my
you,
feeling.
but,
That's just my feeling.
No, I understand where you're at. You're in that chair, but I'm not, this
I
isn't
understand.
directed at you or directed at anybody
I
directly
understand
here.
that, you know, but that's not the way most people come across.
You know, it's just that, like Mr. Grillo has said, and, you know, you can go back on the tapes at the council meetings, when he was the liaison, he said a lot of things were done behind closed doors that, see, Mr. McEnon can verify it, Mr. Limber can verify it. Usually what happens is, I'm on the board of Ed, okay, and I'll go with my experience there. If we go into executive, like sometimes you have to discuss matters. We come out and we discuss what we discussed. We don't say exactly how we discuss it. We'll say maybe employee relations or grievance or something like that.
That's all we did. The only times that we went into, you know, closed session was to talk about litigation. And we came back out and said, you know, we talked about the litigation and the upcoming Mako property. And when it's done, we'll give you the, you know, and basically that's all you can do. You know, I mean, the transparency of a closed meeting is a closed meeting until, you know, because you're talking about sensitive issues that are trying to get worked out legally, you know, so, and when they're done, I'm the first one to tell anybody what they want to know. And
Mr. Chairman.
how it got to that.
Point out that we never made any decisions in closed session. It was only briefings to the rest of the board.
And really, we never did make any decisions.
Right.
All the decisions have been on the open session. The closed session was just, if you don't do this, this is what's gonna happen to you, or the ramifications are gonna be this, or this is your option to do that, you know. Then we came back and took a vote.
Before you made your decision, you know, last week and then memorialized it tonight, the council had appointed a secondary planner, had Leon Cavelli, is that how you say your last name?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to talk with that person about how she reviewed your site plans, et cetera?
I sent her all the information on the COA work that I had. I haven't heard back from her.
I would think that when the Borough Council looks at these resolutions, that their planner will be there then. You know, that's the only thing I can say, because the people that were here, that were opposed to it, that were part and parcel of hiring her, didn't bring her up once that meeting. I mean, that, to me, says volumes, you know. If you had a study done that we paid over $10,000 for, from what I'm hearing, don't quote me on that, but it was a substantial amount of money, I would want to see some kind of report. And I would like to see how it differs from ours. But again, nobody from the council came and talked to anybody at this board. They went about their own business, Mr. Maganone's talking about working together here. There wasn't much of that done here.
You know, it's a shame, you
And
know.
we did change board presidents, so and I'm not gonna put any blame on John the way he ran the board or anything, but what he did before on all of that was the way he ran the board. But as far as transparency, I'm a union rep. They look up me upside down, downside out. I'm as clean as a book. You know?
I've been on the same side as you were. And
You know, so I mean, really, I know what it is. I try to put myself in that seat, you know? And the day I stop doing that is the day I'm gonna stop doing this.
Well, maybe in the future, we could combine, you know, different boards into and switch, flip ideas back and forth to one another.
And I don't know.
Because that way
I don't know legally how under the sunshine laws, what we can do and what we can't do. I'd have to ask counsel for that. I know that we've had, people go, I'll give you a good example. The tree bank.
I don't mean to be taking up everybody's
Listen,
time.
Listen, the tree bank, you know, that's one of our issues. People have to pay for trees if you're taking trees down. Well, there's a tree commission, you know. I took it out of my thing to go and talk to the people that run that. They've got a lot of money, but they can justify how they use it. They have a budget, they show you what they do, and when Sandy came around, they did a lot of good, you know. So they depleted half of their budget, and they still have a lot of money, you know. And we keep on giving them money because the ordinance says that, okay? But to understand that, for years, we all sat up here going, right? Where's the money go? What do they do with it? You know, how many trees can you plant? You know, well, it's not just for planting trees, it's for cutting trees down in your wires, to doing the street work in your neighborhoods, and, you know, to replenish trees where they can, you know, and to make the builders put back on their property. That's what he does, to make sure that when the building is done, it's just not a square cement building, and it looks like, you know, somewhere in East Harlem, you know. That's what we're here to do, to make sure that the finished product looks like something that belongs in town.
One last thing,
ahead.
we'll say number 4. These memorializations that you did tonight, they only affect Camelot 1 and Camelot 2, am I correct? Or does it affect all of the prime here in Saraville?
No, it's just Camelot 1 and 2, right? It's not all.
I see a head nodding. I need an answer, if I could have it, please.
The housing plan affects everything. The two ordinances are
Just
the
affect the
pieces of
Kaplan
property.
sites. They don't affect Oak Street strip. That's what we discussed last meeting.
Mike, and now, in the mic, please.
The two ordinances affects Kaplan 1 and 2.
Right.
It doesn't affect the Oak Street development, piece of property. We mentioned that at
That's
the meeting
out,
on the second,
okay.
right? That's gonna be a separate ordinance, I would think, right? Or how are you gonna work that?
When it comes down from council.
All right, so the National Lead site is not affected in these two memorializations that are going through tonight, am I correct?
No,
We don't know what's going on with that until we,
Okay, so just Camelot, for everyone's that's gonna be watching this.
right.
It's gonna be Camelot 1 and 2, and the Oak Street National Lead is not affected right now.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
yeah, and the Oak Street issue that the gentleman talked about is a zoning issue, and I pretty much explained what he should do to try to get some relief down there.
Yep.
I mean, we've already had people take 9x10 glossy photos and go to the zoning officer and says, what's this? You know,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Anybody else?
I'm Beverly Mierzwiak, 165.
Microphone, ma'am.
I'm sorry about that. I'm Beverly Mierzwiak, 165 Oak Street, and I understand you just said the Melrose National Lead site was taken out. You don't at this point know what you're going to do with that. If it'll go in at the next meeting, or will you discuss it? I'm just trying to figure out what's going to happen with it now. Will we be notified, certified mail, if there's going to be another ordinance putting that in separately?
How were you notified for the two Camelots?
The one that, we
She's
were
up
in the initial ordinance, it was the Camelot River Road and the National Lead
So
site.
you got noticed.
I got a certified mail for the borough,
Noticed again.
the council meeting, With the planning board, I got one that was certified, but none of us signed for it. The green card was just ripped off for the last week's meeting,
Then you should get notice as well, and it's also in the paper.
right? In the,
Well, if you must be
Whatever
200
paper you
feet
use.
away from that
Yes.
piece of property. You're
right
gonna get
across from
noticed.
it.
If there's gonna be an ordinance to change whatever's there.
Okay, and then,
And then you'll get noticed if they go to build, because you're within that zone. So what usually happens is, the people that are only 200 feet away get noticed, but the people 400 and 500 feet away are just as concerned. So my suggestion to you is when you get noticed, or the number of people around Oak Street that get noticed, because some of them are businesses and we don't hear from them.
right,
The residential, if you have a way to communicate with your neighbors, then it's gonna be time to do that. And I'm sure now everybody knows what a legal notice is, and they're looking in the paper now and saying, when it can come up. Or you can come by any meeting and we'll let you know when it's gonna come on the agenda.
you don't post that in your website, right?
I'm
No,
not
it-
sure.
It's not on a web.
It's on.
It's on?
Tonight's meeting was on.
It's on and what was on the agenda.
Yes, tonight.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
on our
But it's not for
website.
the future meetings, though, until the
We'll
day of
go
the
on
meeting,
from
yeah.
now on. I found out who.
How
talk
much
to
in
put it
advance,
on.
Pat? How much in advance do we post it?
Well, this one I just did yesterday because I wasn't.
But now
Right,
that the
we-
new
because we
process,
got
we'll have it in
changes.
within 5 business days as long as we
Before
have
the
the
meeting.
information, because that's what Robert Rules of Order says we have to do.
Okay, and my last question is, the residents of Melrose would like that property put in as open space to be preserved?
And that's nothing we can do.
That's what I was gonna ask, who do we approach? Do
No,
we start
because
with
that's,
you?
that's something that you have to petition, and it seems to be that, and I'm not gonna discourage you, but, when George Gomez came here, he wanted the same thing with the piece of property up near the Ernston Road, water tower. The people from Oak Tree want the same thing. I don't know how much money we have in the open space, but there is money. I mean, we pay for it. And 6 million, well, 6 million don't buy you much. 6 million, I can tell you right now, 6 million isn't gonna buy you the National Lead property. So
Can the county kick in? 'Cause I was told
that's
to
something that,
contact
that's something that you have to ask the governing body. The county does come up with money to give grants for farms, and they did that with Deeker's Farm, for farmland presentation. But there's also an open space, where they could, but the reality of it, that's not us. We don't do that.
Okay,
So you'd have to go to mayor and council and have them okay that, and then you'd have to get them to fund it, and then after all of that, you would have to get a price. It would have to be appraised, and you can't condemn it without doing any of that, I mean, there's no, if somebody owns it, somebody wants to develop it, they're gonna, that piece of property, to me, has got a lot of constraints on it without any of the paperwork. I mean, if you've ever walked around and done it, I was over there the other day, just because I hadn't been there in 4 or 5 years, and it hasn't changed.
and it is listed on the DEP's active contamination sites, I printed it
And,
online.
and that's, so is National Lead, and look what they did down there. So all of that stuff is relevant, but it's not relevant to the point of what we're talking about, because once they deem whatever they're gonna let build there, then all of those floodgates open up, where the DEP comes involved, where the traffic study comes involved, where the density comes involved. Before that, it's just a piece of property that can be developed. There's not a plan in front of us. Until there's a plan in front of us, we can't act, because there's, it's only hearsay.
Okay.
And to get to that other point where you want to be, I'm not quite sure how easy it is to get there. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's a lot of doors that have to be opened or in line to be opened at the same time for that to happen. Is it impossible? No, because the county buys property all the time. Somebody from this town has to go to the county and say, hey, look it, we got $6 million, I need $6 million more. Now, are they gonna deem that a reason to do it? I don't know.
No, we can only ask, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah, that's all you can. But, that $6 million seems a lot, but I'm sure in every part of the town, there's somebody that would like a parcel built and a park put there rather than another house, or a senior house somewhere else. So, you know.
All right, that's all I had.
No,
to-
because when the Mako property was being talked about, you know, people said, why can't we just make Kennedy Park huge? No. Well, Mako didn't even want to discuss selling the property, so, you know,
All right,
so,
all right, well, thank you very much.
you're welcome. Anybody else? Come on up. Michael, see that? I'm taking your advice already.
Charlie Lukey again. You know, Tom, I'd like to ask you, that Oak Street property, you people take into consideration the traffic that's going to create? And another thing, how are they going to get out on the highway?
That's what I said.
You're going to buy up Costa Verde to make it so that they can, that's the only way out?
I have no idea, John.
Well,
They have to come before us with a plan. To do that, they have to change the zoning, they have to go to the zoning board first.
right.
So before they do anything to this board, before they even think about putting a shovel in the ground, they got months of work to do.
Yeah, what?
And what they ought to do is clean up their act and not be breaking the law now. You know, and you as the general public can ask why that isn't happening.
Now, another thing, the amount of traffic, excuse me, the amount of traffic that's going to generate, it's going to be cost prohibitive in my ideas about the amount of streets that will have to be done over. There's only one street in and out of there, all right? But there's 5 streets that traffic is going to be on before they get to Oak Street. And you're talking major, major money. Who's going to pay for that? The taxpayers or Mr. Kaplan? That's
Well, I don't
it.
even know who owns the property on Oak Street.
I think National
Well, the
Grid-
streets are deteriorated. Energeski Drive on both sides of the bridge is coming apart. Laurel Street is perking water, right? Frazee Avenue is coming apart. Kearney Road is maybe an inch and a quarter of blacktop. You're gonna put 300 and some cars a day on that? It ain't gonna work.
Your comments are well-deserved, but they're falling on a deaf ear because we don't have control over that.
Well,
You know what
maybe
I'm
you
saying?
can talk to
Yeah,
the
well,
people on the other boards to
Well, I
enlighten
think
them
you
what's
probably
going
have a
on.
better- I think you would probably have a better chance of going to a council meeting and telling them what you feel.
I've been there.
Mr. Chairman, from the engineer's perspective, in order for anything to go onto Route 9, the state has to approve that. There have to be state permits to get onto Route 9.
Oh, without a doubt, but I mean, you have to have a plan to do
I know,
that.
but you have
We
no
don't
acceleration lane there, you got an exit going off into Raritan Street, you can.
Sir, we haven't been presented with anything. It's, traffic is an issue, it could be, but we don't have anything to work with right now. So, I don't know what to tell you. I'm familiar with the area, and I agree with you.
Open space.
Ken, you know the area. I was going to say, people take a ride down there and just think about this, 363 cars on a given day.
Still there.
If you do that twice because you go to work one way and you come back the other, let's say we're talking about 500 cars going up past the Melrose Firehouse. You think that road is going to stay there? It's going to be a dust trail.
Okay, but this hasn't been presented yet, so, you know, it's all to be determined.
But it's food for thought for you people,
Yes, certainly,
please.
certainly.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else under public? If not, I'll take a motion to close the public.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, close public.
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right?
Adjourning until September 20th? All in favor of
Motion to
adjournment?
adjourn, motion to change that meeting to,
We had that already, so.
Okay.
All right.
then motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. If we could all turn the mics on. I have, don't leave.
I thought you said adjourn.
Yeah, I did. I just want to speak to you as a public citizen. For everybody that doesn't know, I'm pretty involved with Kitty Keepaw Camp, which is a camp for underprivileged kids.
How much time?
It's a lot, but it's a good thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass a couple of these out that way and a couple this way. you can take them. This is to save the date. The reason I'm saving the date is because if you pay before September 15th, it's only $100, not $125. What I got going on is I have a group of 65 guys that are wannabe chefs. They have a club. Their main purpose in life is they sit down the second Monday of the month and they cook a gourmet restaurant dinner for themselves. They do it 10 months a year, and they take July and August off. I had the occasion to go to their Valentine's dinner that they let their wives come to. It's like going to the Frog and the Peach to eat. All right. They get chefs to come in and critique